Welcome to my supply chain training series. This is Ravi Shankar here, and today we will be looking at international commercial terms, better known as Incoterms version 2020. Incoterms forms as part of sales contract and has been around for almost a century. Let's us now begin by looking at how Incoterms came to existence. International Chamber of Commerce (ICC) is body responsible for this. In 1923, ICC started a study on most commonly used trade terms and disparities in their interpretation. In 1928, a second study were conducted covering 30 countries to improve clarity of trade terms. Finally, in 1936, ICC publishes the first edition of Incoterm featuring 6 trade terms for carriage by sea. In 1953, 3 new non-maritime terms addressed the emerging importance of rail post-World War II, namely free on rail, FOT, free on truck, and DCP, delivered cost paid. In 1967, a third edition was launched with 2 additional terms, namely DAF, delivered at frontier, and DDP, delivered in country of destination. In 1976, the 4th edition brings about new terms to provide clarity on free on board for air transport. In 1980, with the rise of containerized cargo means, documentation processes need updating and new terms FRC, free carrier, introduced. Each revision thereafter will come every 10 years. In 1990, ICC unveils complete revision of 1953 reflecting present practice in trade and use of intermodal. FRC become FCA. The changes also address use of electronic messages. In year 2000, sees major changes in delivery section with clearer FCA term. In 2010, major changes were done with reduction number of terms from 13 to 11 with 2 new rules for use irrespective of mode of transport. 2020 revision will be covered in depth in this session. While the changes might not be a lot, there is more detailed explanation. Now, let us understand the purpose and scope for why Incoterms is needed. It establishes rules or governances. It helps eliminates uncertainty due to differing interpretations in different countries. Also regulates the rights and obligation of trading partners. It form as part of sales contract and not a separate transportation contract. In these next slides, we will be looking at how these Incoterms can be divided into 4 categories. We have paid, unpaid, departure and arrivals based category. Now let us look at critical points in Incoterms. Incoterms should address minimum 3 key points, namely insurance, costs, and risk. Incoterms has modes meant for any type of modes of transport or specific modes such as sea or inland waterways. For those terms meant for any mode of transport such as EXW, X-Works, FCA, free carrier, CPT, carriage paid to, CIP, carriage insurance paid to, DAP, delivered at place, DPU, delivered at place unloaded, DDP, delivery duty paid. All of these terms need to specify the port or destination. Now let us look at those specific for sea or inland waterways. FOS, free alongside ship, FOB, free on board, all are to a named port of shipment. CFR, cost and freight to, CIF, cost, insurance, and freight to, all are to the named port of destination. Now let us look at 2020 Incoterms revisions. What is similar is it still has 11 rules with 4 for water and 7 for all modes, while 1 rules was renamed. What has changed? Well, for a start, DAT renamed as DPU to better reflect the place to unload can be warehouses beside terminals. CIP now has higher insurance clauses, cargo clauses A with 110% of invoice value coverage as opposed to previous cargo clauses C requirement. Further clarity is defined specific for FCA with LC. It also inserted provision of transport by either trading party as opposed using third party. Cost allocation pertaining security obligations is explained in more details. Let us now look at all 11 rules that forms Incoterms 2020. You will notice, with exception of DPU, all remain same as 2010 version, although there are more revision in details of each section in this version. Now we look at each of these Incoterms individually. We look from 3 perspectives: cost, risk, and insurance. We further divide them into seller obligation and buyer obligation. Given X work is for all modes, seller delivers when the goods, once placed at agreed place at the disposal of the buyer at a named factory, at the named warehouse or place of origin, need to be agreed beforehand. The only terms where it is based on departure. Free alongside ship. First of 3 terms which freight payment is done by buyer. Exclusive for C mode of shipments. Seller delivers when the goods are placed at terminal or agreed place of collection such as depot/ICD at origin, customs cleared. Buyer takes responsibility of loading onto agreed mode of transport. Free carrier. Seller delivers when the goods are loaded into container or truck placed by buyer at premise advised by seller. Buyer, either pick up from seller premise or another named place, need to arrange for customs clearance. Free on board is C mode Incoterms. Seller delivers when the goods are loaded into container, trucked, customs cleared and loaded on board of vessel at agreed port of loading. Carriage paid to, as its name implies, are part of C terms in Incoterms, where freight is paid by seller. Seller delivers when the goods arrive at destination and unloaded at destination terminal/agreed place. Both parties should agree a container/truck deem loaded on a container, at which point the risks will transfer from the seller to the buyer of the goods. Cost and freight, or sometime called CNF, is used for C mode of carriage. Seller delivers when the goods arrive at destination port and unloaded at destination terminal. Both parties should agree a container deem on board vessel, at which point the risks will transfer from the seller to the buyer of the goods. Cost insurance paid to. This is all mode of transport terms, as the name implies. On top of freight cost, seller has to also insured the goods with cargo clauses. A seller delivers when the goods arrive at destination port and unloaded at destination terminal or named place. Both parties should agree a container deem on board vessel or truck or agreed mode, at which point the risks will transfer from the seller to the buyer of the goods. Cost insurance freight is C mode variant of CIP. It still uses cargo clauses C for insurance and popular within commodities transactions. Seller delivers when the goods arrive at destination port and unloaded at destination terminal. Both parties should agree a container deem on board vessel, at which point the risks will transfer from the seller to the buyer of the goods, though insurance is undertaken by seller. Renamed from DAT to better reflect all mode of transport usage. Delivered at place unloaded is one of 3 arrival-based Incoterms. Seller delivers when the goods, once unloaded from the arriving means of transport, are placed at the disposal of the buyer at a named terminal at the named port or place of destination. Both parties should agree the terminal/named place and, if possible, a point within the terminal/named place, at which point the risks will transfer from the seller to the buyer of the goods. Delivered at place. The seller delivers the goods when they are placed at the disposal of the buyer on the arriving means of transport, ready for unloading at the named place of destination, customs cleared. Duty under buyer. Parties are advised to specify as clearly as possible the point within the agreed place of destination, because risks transfer at this point from seller to buyer. Delivered duty paid. Similar in approach to DAP, except seller also undertakes duty payment works at destination. Can be used on any mode of transportation. Incoterms provides common terms, with common understanding anywhere around world, forming part of contract of sales and ensure enough clarity on risk, insurance, and cost should need arises. Revision has been made at 10 years interval ever since 1980. I hope this video has helped you understand Incoterms better. Please note the visual in this slides might be more C-centric, on it boundary demarcation, and especially for all modes, it should be noted named place would decide the final boundary. I hope you like this and would welcome you to subscribe to my channel for regular dose of supply chain related updates.